Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I got some breaking news for you. So a couple of videos ago, I talked about all the new legislation that is coming up when it comes to gun control. Some good, a lot more that's bad. Now, most of it is still stuck in committee. That being said, I got a text from one of our other local gun tubers, and I'm sure you're going to see some videos pop up, probably from Lock and Load Podcast, the Connecticut Gun Bench, because we're all in the same group chat, and then, of course, this one. So it says, these are going for a public hearing on Wednesday. So some of these came out of committee, and now they're going up for a public hearing. So when is this happening? Wednesday, March 12th. It's at 10 a.m. It is going to be live in person, obviously, on Zoom, and there will be a YouTube live. So I'm definitely going to set a calendar alert to make sure I pay attention to this, okay? Submitting your written testimony needs to happen. Now, what's going before public committee? Let's see what we got here. Okay, one of them doesn't matter for us, but they've got HB 7042. This is an act concerning implementation of the Firearm Industry Responsibility Act. This is the one that I covered before. It's right here in this one. And this is the one that makes FFLs liable for what people do with firearms once they are legally purchased. So you go in, you pass your background check, everything's good to go, and then you go home, you do dumb things, nefarious things, you Kurt Cobain yourself, etc. All of the liability will fall back on the FFL or people like me, because we're considered marketing. If I do a review on, say, the standard Glock 19, and I'm like, hey, this is an awesome gun, blah, 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 and then someone buys that Glock 19 based on my review, goes off, does dumb things, does that make me liable? Well, according to this bill, it sounds very much like it does, which is not good. Also coming up is going to be HB 7070. It's being raised, and it's an act concerning the duty to retreat in a house of religious worship. So the summary on this is it's to eliminate the requirement that a person in a house of religious worship retreat before using deadly force to defend himself or herself or a third person, which is good. I know plenty of church services where they have armed security and the parishioners themselves are armed. I know when I go to church, I'm usually carrying. Now, the pastor, the priest, the father, whatever it is that you call the person at the altar leading worship, for me, usually knows that I'm doing this. So it's added security. And there's plenty of other parishioners that are also carrying. So that's a good thing. So if you're a churchgoer, whether it be synagogue, church, or whatever, this would be something to really pay attention to. We also have HB 7137. It is being raised. It's an act concerning a conviction in another jurisdiction as a disqualifier for a carry permit or firearms eligibility or ammunition certificate, and concerning a merchant category code for firearms or ammunition retailers. So currently, I'm sure you've heard the murmurs of credit card companies using a very specific merchant code to flag the fact that you're buying a gun inside a FFL. It used to just fall under like sporting goods, but then a bunch of credit card companies got together and said, no, we're going to create our own category just for firearms, ammunition, and the such, so we can track it. A lot of people were really upset by it. Originally, one credit card company, Discover, came out and said, we're not going to do that. Since then, they too have caved, and it's one of those things where if it does go through, you're never going to get rid of it. Then we have HB 7194, an act concerning self-defense concerning the transfer of large capacity magazines and assault weapons. Because currently, in the state of Connecticut, it's impossible to transfer them. So if I want to get rid of them to my son, to my spouse, right? Say I want to transfer them to Mrs. Guru. Can't happen. I mean, what they're talking about is like my demise. I die. What happens to the gun? That's the biggest question. SLFU said, well, at that point, they would just transfer. But if you read the letter of the law, black and white, technically, it's not supposed to happen. So this is to ensure that when I pass, my large capacity magazines, which we all know they're standard capacity, and my assault weapons, which are just basically my SBR, Connecticut Other, AR-15s, things like that, are actually transferable to Mrs. Guru or my son or my daughter or one of them who's getting them. So this is coming up again on Wednesday, March 12th at 10 a.m. Written testimony. You need to do it. You need to submit it. If you're unsure how to do written testimony, then go to the CCDL's website and they have a template for you to use. And they walk you through step by step how to do it, what to write, what to include, what not to include. They even give you so much as like a blank slate, like the body of the letter. You can just cut and paste that. A lot of people do. I recommend kind of mix it up, put it in your own words, use that as a blueprint, but you don't want to just cut and paste. You know, you get a couple thousand people that do that. The politicians just start ignoring it because, you know, it's a cut and paste job. So mix it up a little bit, change the wording around, make it sound like your own. So if you support or certain ones you're against, you definitely need to get your testimonies in. All right. I personally think that 7137 is a good one. I should not have to retreat from a house of worship. Somebody comes in with nefarious intent. You're stuck in the pew. You can't go anywhere. I should be able to defend myself. 7194, being able to transfer my standard capacity magazines and my assault weapons, according to the state of Connecticut. I should be able to do that if I were to pass. Those guns should be readily available to be just transferred over to next of kin. Of course, an act concerning discretionary transfer, that's 1441. We don't care about that one. 7042, an act concerning implementation of the Firearm Industry Responsibility Act. That is what we are against. We don't want that liability to fall on the FFLs. Of course, the other one is where the liability falls on us, which we definitely don't want. And if you don't know and you're just tuning in, that's the one to where you can do everything right by the letter of the law. Lock your guns up. Somebody breaks in your home, steals your gun, even though you locked it up. And a reasonable person would believe you secured your firearm. They go out and they cause mayhem. They commit a crime or whatever and somebody gets hurt. You would be liable, civilly and, of course, by state law. That is absolutely dystopian because that would discourage me and you and other people who are trying to exercise their Second Amendment rights from actually buying guns. And, of course, 7042 is going to, you know, discourage people like Joshua Ritlock and Load and other FFLs you may use to actually just deal with the amount of liability that's involved, and they're not going to sell guns anymore. They're going to close up shop or leave the state. And that's kind of the point, I believe. The state of Connecticut is not saying that you can't buy or own guns. They're just going to make the liability of doing such so painful that a normal person is not going to want to, because you're looking at financial ruin. So pay attention, guys. This is the stuff that's coming up. I told you I would keep you up to date. So when I know something, you'll know something. That's all I got for you in this video. You guys stay vigilant.